Hi everyone, welcome back to the Rangers review. We're at Ibrox after Rangers 1, Olympiacos 3. Not the most entertaining pre-season game, Jonny. Quite a lot of negative reaction after it. We're going to speak through some of the talking points, speak through the press conference as well, to judge what I think overall, Jonny, to summarise it. Pre-season always comes with caveats that I feel like we've said that word caveat far too much over pre-season. It wasn't a night that I think gets you excited ahead of the new season. Michael Beale's spoken about picking difficult games and trying to play a variety of opponents. But I think when you come out to Ibrox tonight, people would have expected a little bit more entertainment on the ball, a few concerning defensive errors. Reading too much into it. Is it just pre-season? Michael Beale said as well, 10 days is a long time in pre-season, looking ahead to that Kilmarnock game. Just your thoughts on the game and how you judge it.
Well, I was pretty down on the performance in the first half, and I thought that Michael Beale would get into them, and in the second half it would probably be quite different. And it looked like that was going to be the case, didn't it, for about 5-10 minutes? And then it kind of fell away and was almost worse. Not a good performance. Michael Beale came in and was very positive after the game. He was very bullish. He talked about fitness being the most important thing, about taking on really, really tough challenges, and Olympiacos being the latest in the line that is going to end with Hoffenheim, which is another one that's going to be difficult. He cited the fact they'd beaten Feyenoord 4-2 in a recent game as evidence to their quality. But I can kind of understand it to some extent. You know, you want to be prepared for these Champions League qualifiers and the level of quality that you're going to be coming up against. Not really Kilmarnock. You know, Rangers have enough quality to beat Kilmarnock. But having said that, this was not a good night.
No.
And this is the third game that we've had here at Ibrox this pre-season where Rangers have shown little flashes here and there, the odd bit of good play, the odd player that's given a little bit more than the others. But overall, as the lights go out on us here at Ibrox, perhaps they're trying to tell us something. Overall, you'd have to say there's been a bit of a lack of spark, a lack of creative frisson. And this was something that probably cost the team a trophy, at least one trophy last season. And with all the signings that have been made, that was clearly something they wanted to change. It's far too early to get too up or down about it, Josh. Yeah. But this is Rangers Football Club, and we know that everything that happens will be scrutinised to the nth degree. And therefore, a performance like this is going to yield negativity. And that's just why this club is the way it is. Yeah. So there's no escaping it. But Beale, I think, in the presser was trying to say, look, it's pre-season, we're aiming towards something. Perhaps you could talk about your theory about the way they approach first half and second half in these games, because I think it is quite interesting and probably does capture what Beale is trying to do.
Yeah. It's also simultaneously it's a bit boring. I think this is the thing about pre-season. It's you know for the manager, I guess.
Not your point, Josh.
Yeah.
Watching it. You're not telling the viewers that we're boring, are you?
Not to switch off. No, I'm not. But I think if you look at the three games so far, they've went 4-3-3 before the break, 4-3-1-2 after the break. Meaning, and broadly speaking, they're sitting off a bit more before the break and being a bit more aggressive after it. So if you think of, you know, pressing to score against Newcastle, or I thought the second half on the ball, Rangers just a lot better against Hamburg. I think the difference tonight was just pretty sloppy defensively. We'll come on to maybe a couple of specifics, but then when you do get that early goal, and that early goal comes from that change of shape, I think, which allows you to press high up the pitch. And score by way of a penalty, although I don't know if it was a penalty. Watching
it definitely wasn't, Josh. It definitely wasn't a penalty.
I think that to the boring detail, it's not the most entertaining to watch if you're coming and you want to be entertained and you're watching Rangers work on their distances and their shape, and that's phraseology that I heard a lot under Gerrard. I think it's important for Beale because, you know, the off-ball work is going to be important to limit teams in the Champions League. Now, Rangers obviously conceded a couple of preventable goals tonight, but more looking at the first half. So yeah, there is that element to it, and he spoke about this being a different challenge and facing a variety of challenges across the course of pre-season. But you know, I quite enjoy watching boring football games sometimes because I'm just like that. But even I, in the first half, was thinking, I'd like to see a bit more. I think there was a few moments the Rangers had. I thought Dowell looked relatively bright again before the break. I thought Barisic struggled.
Let's get into that because, listen, that's a key part of a lot of the online discourse around this game.
Yeah.
Borna Barisic down the left-hand side has had a shaky pre-season at best. That's me being as positive as I can be about him. He looks like he's a guy who's got stuff on his mind. And we know that when Borna is thinking too much about his game, it suffers. Ridvan Yilmaz is an upgrade at the moment, and he was an upgrade when he came on. But when he entered the fray, he was also torched down that right-hand side. He was asked directly about this, Michael Beale, you know, what's your reaction to the performance of the left side of the defence? And he said, you know, I don't think there's an issue really. He said Borna, I think he called out Borna for the second.
He said he had a slow start.
A slow start, which he did. I think you counted 3 mistakes in the first 12 minutes.
I was not enjoying it.
No, you were sitting next to me, Beeling. But Michael Beale wasn't Beeling actually at the end of the game, which is quite interesting. But then he also said, you know, Ridvan will have to have a look at himself regarding the third goal. Now, I just think that boy's a really good player, really quick, and he just torched Ridvan for pace. Now, the rest of the time, I think he adds another dimension to the way Rangers attack down the left flank because he can go both ways. Yeah. With Borna, if you want to stop him, he's one-dimensional to the extent that you can kind of stop him. Now, listen, I want to be fair on Borna and say if you get him in space on the left side, you know, the guy's got a wonderful left foot. He's going to put in a lot of accurate crosses, and you're going to see a lot of assists. And over his time at Ibrox, we've seen that over and over again. Yeah. But
you just need to refresh positions. I don't think there's anything controversial to say about that. I don't think the Rangers really had any standout performers. I thought that Sam Lammers continues to show why he's an exciting signing. Really two-footed. He had that moment in the first half where he kind of fashioned an opportunity going one way and then the other. The manager said that he thought Sima had a better game tonight. Obviously, kind of played the pass that led to the penalty, laying the ball into Lammers, who then found Cantwell. Want to talk about the second half, Johnny, because Rangers get the equaliser, but from that point on, I think I struggle to just really in the same way that they have done in the last couple of games, properly disrupt the opposition. And when you concede sloppy goals like that, even if it is in pre-season, and the tempo of the game kind of speaks for itself a little bit, you're going to struggle to get a positive result and a positive outcome. To talk about the two goals, both really poor goals to concede. I think the one of them goes right through John McLaughlin. One, the ball goes over, the ball's played over Barisic's head, comes back in. Yefeko almost makes a really good clearance, but the ball does eventually go in. I think that kind of summed up the game, wasn't it? Somewhat preventable, a bit sloppy, and spoke to, although the manager's picking out positives of pre-season as a whole, I guess people inevitably are going to come and look at this as a performance, as a one-off. They're going to look for the positives and negatives in it. They're going to look at this being 3 pre-season games in, and that's just how it's judged here, isn't it?
I also think a lot of fans will have come here looking to be entertained, Josh. This is the third pre-season game many of them will have paid to get into. And there just wasn't a lot to hang your hat on to be positive about in terms of the kind of attacking alacrity that you would expect from a Rangers side that's got so many talents in it. Mm-hmm. And we know that Sam Lammers has cost a reasonable amount of money, certainly for Rangers. Dessers is the same, £8 million probably between the two of them. So you're expecting a little bit more. Now, it's early and everything needs to be put into that context because you can't justifiably get your knickers in too much of a twist over a pre-season game. It's just, there's nothing at stake. So
pre-season was good last season, wasn't it?
It was, exactly. So everything needs to be put into that context. But at the same time, you have to be honest and say, look, it just wasn't a good performance. And people are right to be saying, well, it was pretty boring. It wasn't really sharp. It wasn't full of spark. There was the odd flash here and there, but it just looked, it wasn't cohesive, was it? There's plenty of time to work on that. There's 10 days left. We know that there's more signings coming in. We know that they're top class. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely going to help Rangers going forward. And I would expect that against Kilmarnock, a side who are, with respect to Kilmarnock, they're not in the same league as Olympiacos. We know that. They're not in the same league as Newcastle. Perhaps Hamburg's more of a realistic comparison. And I thought Rangers played some decent stuff against them. I think you said to me earlier on, XG from that game was 3.8. So on average, Rangers would be expected to score 4 goals. So that'll probably take care of itself. What we're talking about here and what this game was probably most a preparation for is these Champions League games, and that's the challenge going forward. Can Rangers be in a position for that game against Ghent or Servette? Can they be ready to take those teams on and show them and face them down, really?
Yeah. And just finally, I want to talk about the injury update from the press conference, because I guess that was one good thing to come out of tonight. Connor Goldson due to be back in training on the Thursday before the Kilmarnock game, a week tomorrow. Real positive ahead of the Champions League qualifiers. To start with, we'll go into the others, but
massive. Massive. I mean, Connor Goldson has his detractors, and I know right down without even looking at those comments, there'll be people saying, "Oh God, Connor Goldson's a saviour." But
I think you saw that last season when he was out, of how important he is to that defence.
Connor Goldson's one of the best defenders in the league. There's no doubt about that. He's one of the best defenders in Scotland, and he's the best defender at the club. So he's going to be missed. He brings leadership. He brings quality. We know that he can bring the ball out from the back and play accurate balls that are another string to Rangers' bow. So he's got to be a huge addition to this side, and he will strengthen it. And he always does. Whether or not there's that kind of sense of security around the position next to him against high-quality opposition. I've been a big defender of Ben Davies. I feel like sometimes I'm the only one because I think I can see what he brings against teams that sit in. I still think Ben Davies has shown time and again, though, that against higher quality opposition, he struggles defensively. We've seen that again tonight. And it's harder and harder for me to make that case because ultimately these decisive moments are how you're always going to be judged as a Rangers player. You're not going to be judged at how you do against Ross County or St Mirren.
Yeah, I think there's still definitely a strong argument that Rangers need one more player in that defensive area. Danilo and Cifuentes are the two that look imminent, and I think that would obviously add two starters really to the conversation. But just finally as well, Kemar Roof and Tom Lawrence not in the squad tonight. No injury issues there. It was more about not effectively giving them a full training week after they played at the weekend. Dujon Sterling due back in training on Friday. Adam Devine tomorrow. Ryan Jack back in the squad at the weekend. And just to quickly look ahead to the weekend, Johnny, Stevie and Derek will be live in the morning. But that Rangers do need to show a better face because regardless of the mitigation of it being pre-season, pre-season is also a time to build anticipation, expectation, and a week on from going away to Kilmarnock, which will be a difficult game in its own right. I think it is pretty important that Rangers show a little bit more to excite fans ahead of the start of such a big season.
I think fans are more sophisticated nowadays, Josh. The success of the Rangers review probably attests to that, in terms of the tactical analysis we do, the deep dive, the data analysis, which is kind of new for Scottish football in a lot of ways, and the depth that we go into. And I think they expect to see from a football team an identity, a development, a structure. They expect to see something building that they can hang their hat on. And I think Steven Gerrard, a lot of people talk about one title in 9. Yes, but every season it felt like it was building somewhere. And every season you felt like there was gains. And, okay, sometimes there was gains and losses in the same season. There was things that went better and suddenly went worse. But overall, the trajectory of Steven Gerrard's tenure as Rangers manager was forward and upwards. I think with Michael Beale, there needs to be a sense that Rangers are moving forwards. That there's a cohesive identity and structure, and those are words that I would always have expected Michael Beale to bring to the table as manager. But I think this pre-season, there's been a lot of different things tried and a lot of ideas, and perhaps that's all going to fit together because come day one, there'll be one idea for one game against Kilmarnock, and it won't be these multiple things that he's trying. Or it might be that things aren't as going as well as he would hope, and it needs a little bit more time to bed in. We're going to find out. There's a lot of questions, though, based on this game, and there'll be a lot of questions asked. I would just ask everybody, while tempers and passions will be high, just to remember, it is a pre-season game. It is a pre-season game, and one bad performance on one night against a reasonably good team, let's not get carried away, I don't think they were brilliant, doesn't mean disaster. Rangers have got 2 very good players coming in. I think they've signed well in terms of Sam Lammers. I've no doubts about that. you're more solid on Seema than I am, but I see flashes of what he is going to bring. I thought second half tonight, actually, Seema was okay. But definitely defensively, there needs to be work done. There's no doubt about that. It's very, very difficult to continue defending some of those players in there. And I don't think Michael Beale will be immune or unaware of any of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Well, Jonny, thanks for your time. Derek and Stevie are going to be live at the earlier time, we should say, of 9 o'clock.
9 a.m.
Because Derek is coming up the road for the Rangers Review Live. If you've not got your tickets, you can do so in the comment section. Really looking forward to that at Edmondson House on Friday night. So we'll see those of you at 9 a.m. who are going to be there. Thanks for joining us. And until then, we'll speak to you.